It's been interesting to follow what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. Trump has sent in the National Guard to take over the D.C. police force and supposedly beautify the city. So basically, they've staged kind of a military occupation on, a major American city just for the sake of cleaning things up. Even though technically the crime rate in D.C. has been down, but try telling that to Trump and his supporters. So what you have is the National Guard patrolling the streets, and I'm seeing videos of them clearing out homeless encampments and busting people on the street for minor infractions. Kind of a broken windows thing. And they're already talking about doing this, in Chicago, New York City, LA, other big cities. This is Trump's approach towards addressing disorder, which is he loves sending in the National Guard. That's like a button he has on his desk. Send in the National Guard and that'll take care of the problem. So I'm seeing these videos of, it's kind of ominous seeing the military patrolling the streets. But I'm also seeing videos from DC residents. And it's interesting is that these videos are like, it's a video of nothing, really. It's a video of somebody on the street and they're panning around and they're saying like, oh, this street used to be chaos. Now it's so peaceful. And finally, I feel safe in DC. And you know what? I believe those people. I understand. They feel like they saw, they were used to living in kind of a disorderly place. Now they feel like order has been restored and they're happy about it. And that's totally understandable. It makes sense that you feel like things have improved. But that is also why this idea is so dangerous. And that's why it's so seductive, is that it looks like you're headed in the right direction, even though nothing has actually been fixed. Because what's really happening right now is political theater. This is trying to move the problem out of the frame. Nothing has actually been addressed. It's just been hidden. I mean, you got to think Donald Trump is a guy who, he gets like gold covered furniture. This is a guy who is obsessed with appearance, who has none of the mental capacity to actually address underlying problems. So to him and to a lot of the political world, we've reached a point where there's no difference between solving a problem and simply hiding it and making it seem less visible. What you're seeing right now is, I would describe this as the politics of subtraction. This is a whole worldview that sees the world as fundamentally an orderly place that has been contaminated from the outside. So rather than trying to build a functioning system, this viewpoint sees everything, all problems stem from a certain group of people that just needs to be taken away. And this sees, it's almost like we've given up on utopia. And instead, what we've settled on is decontamination. It's a worldview that's like, basically, we live in heaven. But the problem is that the people from hell are also here. So to restore heaven, we just have to get rid of those people. And then things will go back to normal. But the problem with this worldview is that it lets the system off the hook. The politics of subtraction assumes that beneath all of the disorder, there is a functional system that is waiting to emerge. And that once we clear out the debris, everything will be fine. But obviously the problem with this kind of thinking is that, look, if the system was functional, we wouldn't have these problems to begin with. These problems are evidence of dysfunction, not mere contamination. I mean, homelessness is not caused by homeless people. Homelessness is built into our system. We have a housing system that is built on scarcity. It's always going to leave some people out. I mean, you could snap your fingers right now and make every homeless person in America disappear. In a year's time, homelessness is going to be back. Not because that first group reemerged, but because there's a whole new group in the pipeline. This is the Alan Watts thing about, the apple tree. You can clear out all the apples and you can feel accomplished because you don't see any more apples. Next year, new apples, because the underlying problem has not changed. The circumstances have not changed. There's still going to be a housing shortage. There's still going to be mental health crisis, addiction. All of the ingredients that made homelessness the first time, they're still there. You haven't done anything other than shuffle it around. And that's why the politics of subtraction is so hard to actually address, because there is sort of a self-insulating logic to it, which is that when subtraction fails, as it always does, the proponents of subtraction will always say, oh, actually, we didn't go far enough. Oh, if homelessness comes back, the problem is that we didn't remove them far enough away. They just came back because we were too nice. And the only solution to the problem is more. It's always about escalation. And this also locks you into a system where you're afraid to pivot because, it's a sunk cost fallacy. We've gone this far, so the only answer is more. Every time the problem comes back, it's because we didn't do it right the first time, and we just need to raise the stakes. I think what this really gets at is a fundamental miscalculation or a misunderstanding of what society is actually supposed to look like. Because what the politics of subtraction, how it views people, is it views them based on productivity. It views the world as being, look, there's some people who we need, and then there's also extra people. There's a functioning system that can sustain this much, and everybody who is outside of that, we can't have you anymore. You can't be a part of society. But the problem with this is that, this is the logic of business. And this is why it ties into, market capitalism. Market capitalism only has enough room for the people that can be sustained within the system. And the people who cannot contribute, those people simply you can't find a place for them because the market can't provide. But just from a moral standpoint, think about like a family. Imagine a family that judged its members and that removed certain members due to productivity because they weren't carrying their weight. So we had to just get rid of them. That family would not be seen as efficient or smart. That family would be seen as monstrous because that's not how family works. You have a moral obligation to these people. It is an obligation of care and trust. And their value is inherent because they are part of your family. This same logic has to extend to everybody else in society, or else what is society at all besides a bunch of people who agree to not kill each other? To have a functional society, you have to extend a moral obligation to everybody, or else you really don't have anything to actually build on. And that's kind of the problem with subtraction, because this isn't just about making the wrong decision. It's also about making the problem harder to solve. When you treat people as something other than people, when you see them as interchangeable, you end up in a situation where it becomes much harder to actually address what's actually happening. Because people are not bricks that can be moved from place to place, and you don't end up in a neutral position. The homeless person that you displaced is still homeless. The teenager you busted on a minor infraction is still unemployed, but now he has a criminal record, and that homeless person is now in a place that they're not familiar with. So life became that much harder for them. So the problem is not just that you procrastinated and kicked the can down the road. It's that the problem is now coming back, and it's much, much harder to solve, because the more you move people around, the less stable they are. And like I was saying about extra people, society does not have extra people. Every person, every member in society is a load-bearing beam. So when you remove them and you take them out of whatever social structure they're in, this isn't, they're not just existing in a separate place. There is a collapse that is happening around them because you have created more instability. So what Trump is doing right now in DC, and what he's about to be doing everywhere else in the country, this problem is only getting worse. And every problem that feels like it's being solved, when you look around the street and everything is, peaceful, and it feels like it's gone back to normal. It has not gone back to normal, because at some point, look, the National Guard's not that big. At some point, they're going to have to leave DC, and all of these problems are going to come back, because why wouldn't they? They're just going to get moved around from city to city. And over time, somebody's going to have to clean all this up, and it's only going to get harder from this point. Because the politics of subtraction are ultimately about surrender. This is about giving up. We've given up on trying to make a system that works for everybody, and instead we have narrowed our worldview to only cover certain people. And those people who are outside of that worldview, we're just trying to not look at them and hope that somehow things will resolve on their own. But they're not going to resolve on their own. They're going to get worse. The great irony of the conservative movement right now is that it's also become like anti-medicine and like anti-big pharma. But the conservative social policy right now is essentially antibiotics. It is, hey, we have a big problem right now. Here's a solution that's going to make the problem vanish. And when the problem does come back, and it will, the only answer is more. The only answer is up the dosage, until eventually you end up with a problem that can't get knocked down anymore. You end up with a system that collapses because all of the load-bearing beams have been moved out of the way.